All right, welcome back to WMAC Now with your host, Chuck Simpson. Welcome to the live preview for the first round of the RIZIN Super Atomweight Women's Grand Prix for 2022. It's going to go down this Sunday at RIZIN 37 at the Saitama Super Arena in Japan. We've got 4 ladies bouts on tap, all of them in the RIZIN Super Atomweight, which is 108 pounds or 49 kilogram division, including the current sitting RIZIN Super Atomweight champ. Now, her fights during the Grand Prix are not actual championship bouts. They are only bouts as far as the for the Grand Prix. So even if she should lose sometime in the Grand Prix, she will still be the champion. So I just want to get that out of the way right now. We've got 4 bouts on tap. We've got 4 Japanese ladies taking on 4 non-Japanese ladies. So you know, the borders have finally just started opening up in Japan, and they had to start bringing in the foreign fighters. You know, everybody was wanting them. The Japanese fans were wanting foreign fighters. You know, the worldwide fans that like to watch RIZIN were wanting foreign fighters back, and this was the perfect time to do another Super Atomweight World Grand Prix. The first one happened back in 2017, and it had a healthy mix of Japanese and foreign fighters, and they really wanted to hold off on doing another Super Atomweight Grand Prix until it was post-COVID, we'll say. So I like this lineup so far. I think this is a good mix, very eclectic. So most of the faces, I will definitely say that the 4 Japanese faces aren't a surprise. 3 of the foreign faces are definitely a surprise, though. I was, you know, one of them I'm barely familiar with. One of them I'm completely unfamiliar with. And another foreign fighter is just, I didn't know she was still fighting. I thought she had, you know, retired it, even if not officially. So we've got Laura Fontora up here in the top left corner, who is the current strawweight champion for Palace Athena Women's FC. We've got the current RIZIN Super Atomweight champ, Seika Izawa. We've got the former champ, Ayaka Hamasaki. We have Jessica Aguilar, who is the former World Series of Fighting strawweight champ and former UFC fighter. We've got Kana Asakura, who is the winner of the 2017 RIZIN Super Atomweight Women's Grand Prix. We have Shiyu Park out of Korea, who has fought in RIZIN before. Then we have Reina, longtime superstar in Japan, first for shoot boxing and then RIZIN. And then we have Anastasia how do you say her name? Svetkivska out of Ukraine, who is a complete unknown to me. She has 2 pro fights so far, but a pretty darn good amateur record from what I've seen. So should make for a good Grand Prix so far. So the first bouts have already been decided. We've got the lineup decided for RIZIN 37. Now, we've had a couple of cancellations on this card from the men's fights that actually allowed the women's Grand Prix fights to move up. And Seika Izawa versus Laura Fontora in a battle of undefeated fighters is now the main event. The battle of the old guard, Ayaka Hamasaki versus Jessica Aguilar, is in the co-main event. And then at the top of the, we'll call them the preliminary bouts before the intermission, we've got Kana Asakura versus Shiyu Park in a classic Japan versus Korea fight. And then we've got Reina versus Anastasia Svetkivska right before that. So we've got the ladies headlining the pre-intermission card, and then we have the ladies also headlining the card, the whole event. So let's go ahead and break down these 4 bouts. First up, we've got Reina Kubota taking on the newcomer, unfamiliar to just about everybody I've heard talk about her, Anastasia Svetkivska of Ukraine. I mean, if you're not familiar with Reina, just do a search on her. All capital letters on YouTube, and you will find a lot of really nice highlight videos on her. For Svetkivska, you have to go look up IMMAF amateur bouts pretty much to find anything on her. So let's go ahead and take a look at the stats on this one. Kubota coming in at 12-4. Spekivska coming in 2-0, undefeated so far in her young pro career. I think she's something like 7-1 or 8-1 as an amateur before that. Now, Reina last fought 6 months ago on New Year's Eve, dropped a unanimous decision to Shiyu Park, who's also on the card. Before that, was on a nice win streak. So, and her last win was over Miyu Yamamoto 7 months ago. For Spekivska, she last fought 4.5 months ago for some promotion called RFP. Defeated her opponent via TKO. Looking at the age, Reina is the elder of the two, 31-24. Nice height advantage for Spekivska, 5 feet 7 inches, 169 centimeters to 5 feet 3 inches, 160 centimeters for Reina. No reach listed for Spekivska. Reina is listed at 63 inches, 160 centimeters. Honestly, this is a hard one. I mean, you'd want to go with the more experienced fighter in Reina, but here's the thing with Reina. She's very good striker. I mean, excellent striker. And she's slick with submissions. But everything in between that, the overall wrestling, the transitions, just so much in between. She is a very flawed fighter. And here she is taken in on someone who doesn't have a lot of pro experience, but has a lot of a deep amateur background, which is still pretty rare to see in women's MMA. And, excuse me, I just don't know anything about Spekivska. So I always pick the fighter that I know more about, but this is intriguing to me. So I'm going to pick Reina here. But man, coming in against a complete unknown like this always makes me nervous. So next up, we have Kana Asakura taking on Shiyu Park in a classic Japan versus Korea battle. And from what I understand, these two have sparred before. They've trained before together. And so I heard someone saying that, when this bout was first announced via the press conference, Asakura sounded nervous. So this will be a very good one. You've got to also, besides just being a classic Japan versus Korea thing, which is at best a rivalry, and at worst has been, well, we won't even go there. But let's just say that this is a rivalry, we'll say, that goes back literally hundreds of years. But in addition to that, it is also a classic striker versus grappler battle. The striker Park taking on the grappler Asakura. So this brings in, several fun elements here into this bout. Looking at the stats, Asakura has much more experience, 19-6 to Park's 7-4. Now Asakura coming in on last fought. Didn't bring it up fast enough. Let's see, a little over 2.5 months ago, defeated Satomi Takano via decision in a battle of veterans. Before that, she had lost 2 straight, though, to Ayaka Hamasaki and then Saori Oshima in what was a pretty big upset. Now, Park, on the other hand, is coming off of 2 straight wins. First, she defeated Reina for RIZIN on New Year's Eve. Then she went back to Deep Jewels and defeated Arakoga via unanimous decision. That was a little over 2.5 months ago. Now, Park is the elder fighter, 31-24. Here's a unique thing, though. Park hasn't talked about slowing down at all, whereas Asakura has actually been talking about retirement lately. Then you look at the height here. It's basically identical, 5 feet 2 inches, 158 centimeters for Asakura, 157 centimeters for Park. No reach listed for the two of them. This is going to be a good one. I think this might be the closest fight on the card for the Grand Prix opening round. I mean, yes, Asakura is a good wrestler, good grappler. Park's a very good striker and has really improved on her takedown defense. You go back to her bout against the current RIZIN Super Atomweight champ Seika Izawa. Izawa made her atomweight debut against Park and had a very difficult time taking Park down. I mean, and honestly, if that fight were in RIZIN and not Deep Jewels, Park probably would have finished Izawa in that fight because she had landed that illegal blow that was, soccer kick. And Izawa probably would have been finished in that first round. But overall, Izawa had a very hard time taking Park down. Asakura does have good takedowns, but I think she's going to have a hard time taking Park down. Now, on the feet, got to go with Park to win this one. So if this stays on the feet, I would go with Park. If it gets to the ground, Asakura has a much stronger chance. Now, Park has really worked on her takedown defense. Up until a month or so ago, she had been living in Japan for the last 2 years, training at Crazy Bee with Miyu Yamamoto, who has also beaten Asakura and is a world-class wrestler. And that's how Park had managed to, work on both her takedown defense and her ability to get back up from those takedowns. Now she's back in Korea training at Team Mad, so we'll have to see if she's kept up with that. My pick's going to be Shiyu Park here, but again, I think this is the closest fight on paper. And my pick for Park is far from 100%. Then move up onto the main card. We have Ayaka Hamasaki taking on Jessica Aguilar in what is Aguilar's super atomweight debut, and a fight that is something like 11, 12 years in the making. These two were set to face way back in, let me check here real quick. Back in March of 2011, so 11 years in the making was this bout. And that was for, I want to say, Valley Tudo, Japan. Back in Jules' 12th ring. And that fight got delayed because of the earthquake and the subsequent tsunami and the Fukushima and all that stuff. So not only has this fight been a long time in the making, but that was also after Aguilar had defeated Hamasaki's very close friend and mentor, the great Megumi Megamegu Fujii. So we've got a bit of a grudge match coming into this bout here. Let's take a look at the stats for it. Hamasaki coming in at 23-5. Aguilar coming in at 20-9. So somewhat similar records. Both are very experienced. Both of these fighters have seen better days recently. Hamasaki, of course, has lost 2 straight to Seika Izawa. First at New Year's Eve, lost in an upset in a non-title bout, getting finished, and then lost a couple months ago via decision to Izawa. That time she lost her title. Aguilar's has lost 3 straight. To Weili Zhan, that was 3.5 years ago. Then to Marina Rodriguez, that was almost 3.5 years ago. And then most recently lost a split decision to Danielle Taylor a 1.5 years ago. So she's coming off a nice layoff here. Both fighters are the same age, 40 years old. So let's be honest, neither of them are exactly spring hens. Aguilar slightly taller, 5 feet 3 inch, 161 centimeters to Hamasaki's 5 feet 1 inch, 155 centimeters. No reach listed on Tapology for Hamasaki for some reason. Aguilar's is listed at 63 inches, 160 centimeters. So we got a good old-fashioned grudge match here. And 2 fighters who are primarily grapplers. Aguilar, a bit of a wrestler. Hamasaki with her judo. Both have decent stand-up. I definitely would favor Hamasaki on the feed here. I mean, she has one of the best jabs in women's MMA. I mean, one of the absolute best jabs in the women's divisions. Doesn't matter. It's hard to find a better jab than Hamasaki's. It really is. And on the ground, I'd want to favor Hamasaki too. The big question is going to be, Hamasaki's been fighting at atomweight for years now. Aguilar has never fought below strawweight. She's got to get down to 108. I think they might allow 1 pound. First, can she get the weight down? Second, if she can, how much is it going to affect her? That's going to be a big question, especially with her flying all the way to Japan for this. And, we've heard enough fighters talk about, they were doing okay with their weight, and then they flew, and then suddenly they start retaining water. And, the whole pressurized environment in the plane just tends to screw with your anatomy a little bit. So that's a big question. But as far as my pick goes for this one, I got to go with Ayaka Hamasaki. She's been more active. She's only lost to, 2 fighters in how many years? In Sahi Hum and then Seika Izawa. And overall skill-wise, I think she's just overall better than Jessica Aguilar. Like, Jessica Aguilar was a really good fighter 10 years ago. And then it just seemed like the division caught up to her super fast. Whereas she kind of didn't stop developing as a fighter. The rest of the division did and caught up to her really quick. So I'm going to go with Ayaka Hamasaki to win this one. So then we go to the main event. And possibly even more than Park versus Asakura, Seika Izawa versus Laura Fontora might be the closest matchup. I'd say it's actually closer on paper than Park versus Asakura. Might not be as close in reality. But we've got a battle of 2 undefeated champions. Izawa, the undefeated RIZIN Super Atomweight champ and Deep Jewels strawweight champ. Laura Fontora, the undefeated Palace Athena women's champ. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stats on this one. Izawa coming in undefeated at 6-0. Fontora coming in undefeated at 7-0. Let's see. Izawa last fought, defeated Ayaka Hamasaki. That's actually her last 2 fights. Last fought 2.5 months ago. Fontora last fought 5 months ago, 5.5 months ago, when she defeated Andy Nguyen at Palace Athena via submission. Izawa is the elder fighter by 3 years, 24 to 21. Looks like Fontora is going to be the taller fighter, 5 feet 5 inches, 165 centimeters, to Izawa's 5 feet 2 inches, 157 centimeters. No reach listed for either of these fighters. Now, what's very interesting to see about these 2 fighters is that even though they have very similar records, they're very close in pro experience. Fontora's pro experience goes all the way back to September of 2018, whereas Izawa's experience only goes back to 2020. She made her pro debut in October of 2020. So Izawa has a similar number of bouts, but in 2 years less time. So that's very interesting. This is a classic battle between 2 very similar, but also very different grappling styles. Izawa, very high-level judoka. Literally went to college for judo. And had COVID not shut down judo tournaments, that's what she'd still be doing. She would not have left judo if COVID hadn't shut down judo tournaments and MMA managed to stay open. And that's when she started training MMA. For Fontora, she's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background. Very good with arm bars. Out of her 7 wins, she has 5 out of 7 wins come by arm bar. 6th win comes by, looks like a DQ. And she has 1 win by decision. Now, I will say that as far as strength of schedule goes, it goes to Izawa. You look at Fontora's first opponents, it's 0-1, 0-0, 1-0. Her 4th fight, she fought someone who was a fellow 3-0 fighter. But then she immediately went back again and fought a debutante. And then for her 6th fight, she fought someone who was 6-7. And then her last fight against Andy Nguyen was 6-9. And here's the thing, Fontora admitted that Nguyen gave her a hell of a fight, apparently. And if Andy, I got to be honest, and this is nothing against, Andy Nguyen personally, but if Andy Nguyen is like literally taking you life or death and giving you a hell of a fight until the midway point of the second round, doesn't bode well for you against someone like Seika Izawa. Now, what could bode well for Fontora is that Izawa is probably going to be the one to take her down. And Izawa, being a bottom fighter, is probably used to fighting in her guard and is going to be going for those armbar submissions, because that's where a lot of fighters like to throw them from, is the armbar. So we will have to see about that. As far as my pick goes, based on the strength of schedule, the strength of opposition, I'm going to go with Seika Izawa. Again, that's not 100% though. That's what makes this tournament so great, is that, yeah, that's far from 100%. So there you have it, my preview for the RIZIN Super Atomweight Women's Grand Prix opening round that goes down this Sunday at RIZIN 37. Now, I'm not sure yet if a stream is going to be more readily available for people outside of Japan. Apparently, you could stream the last RIZIN event from outside Japan. Just it was a lot to go through. Whether or not they're going to make this one a little bit easier, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to do everything I can to watch it. I might even do a fight companion for this because I'm really excited about this and I really want to cover it and watch these fights live. But we'll have to see. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on these bouts in the comments down below. There are a few people watching live. If you got something in the chat, say so now. But otherwise, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, if you like this content, please give it a thumbs up. That helps get that algorithm going for YouTube and draws people to the video. In the meantime, if you haven't yet, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMA now, the best, most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.